Tila sinisingil na nga ng karma si Senator Joel Villanueva. Ito nga ay matapos nitong aminin sa isang interview na di umano'y may malubha itong sakit na pinagdadaanan ngayon. At ayon pa umano sa doktor nito, ay may taning na ang buhay ng senador dahil sa sakit nito sa puso. Ayon sa publiko, tila ito na nga daw ang singil kay Senator Villanueva dahil sa korupsyong kinasangkutan nito. Samantala narito naman ang pagbubulgar ni Senator Joel Villanueva sa kurakutang nagaganap sa bansa bago pa ito taningan ng doktor.
And thank you, distinguished Majority Leader. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, today, this representation rises to sponsor a measure that addresses one of the most silent yet devastating forms of abuse suffered by many of our people: unfair, abusive, and predatory debt collection practices, particularly those committed by certain lending companies and online lending applications, or OLAs. Mr. President, this representation has the honor to sponsor Senate Bill number 1744 under Committee Report number 26, otherwise known as the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, a measure that draws a clear line between lawful collection and abuse and restores fairness and accountability in the lending industry. We also wish to express our gratitude to the authors and co-sponsors of this measure, Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, Senator Robin Hood Padilla, and Senator Alan Peter Cayetano. Their vision and declaration in crafting legislation that protects the vulnerable have been invaluable. This bill is not merely about regulating loans, Mr. President, nor debt collection practices. It is about protecting human dignity. It is about telling every Filipino borrower, especially the working class, the vulnerable, and the desperate, that the law stands with them even at their most difficult moment. Mr. President, let me say this clearly at the outset. Ang utang ay obligasyon, pero hindi po ito kasalanan. At lalong hindi ito dahilan upang yurakan ang pagkatao ng iba. Sa halip po na tulungan ang nangangailangan, ang gipit ay lalong ginigipit. Sa halip na maging tulay sa pagbangon, pinagkakaitan ang paghihirap ng sariling kababayan. In recent months, Mr. President, through our work here in the Senate, a deeply troubling reality has come to light. Thousands of Filipinos, delivery riders, call center agents, teachers, market vendors, and single parents have been subjected to systemic harassment, intimidation, and psychological abuse simply because they borrowed small amounts of money to survive. Ang ilan po sa kanila ay naririto sa aking likuran, Ginoong Pangulo. They are treated like criminals, hunted, shamed, and threatened, when in truth, they are ordinary citizens, Mr. President, who simply borrowed money to meet basic needs. Even more disturbing is that many are subjected to harassment even before they miss their actual due date, simply because a loan advertised as payable in 120 to 180 days is arbitrarily shortened to a mere 7 days. From August 2024 to January 2026, the Presidential Anti-Organized Crime Commission received 47,144 complaints against abusive online lending applications. The National Privacy Commission, meanwhile, received 2,244 complaints against OLAs from 2018 to 2025, most involving unauthorized access, misuse, and disclosure of personal data. Mr. President, please allow me to add this. Our office here in the Senate has been receiving hundreds of emails a day, desperate pleas for help from victims of OLA harassment. Even regulatory data confirms the magnitude of the problem. In fact, Mr. President, from January to September 2025, the Securities and Exchange Commission acted on 5,415 public complaints involving financing companies, lending companies, and their online platforms. Of these, 68% involved unfair debt collection practices or collection harassment. Mr. President, this tells us that the abuse is widespread. But we all know that these numbers only reflect those who had the courage or the capacity to complain. Marami pa rin po, Ginoong Pangulo, ang tahimik na nagdurusa. Marami pa rin po ang patuloy na inaabuso. What did we uncover, Mr. President? Not only in our hearing, but also from the first-hand accounts of the victims themselves. Let me talk about deceptive and unconscionable loan terms. Borrowers are lured by advertisements promising easy approval and long repayment periods. Some advertise as lasting 120 to 180 days. But once the loan is released, they discover that one, a large portion of the loan is deducted upfront as so-called service, processing, or management fees. Two, the actual amount received is far lower than the amount that they are required to repay. And lastly, interest rates are imposed at outrageous levels, sometimes computed on a daily basis, Mr. President. One OLA was found to be charging an interest rate as high as 7% per day. Yes, Mr. President, 7% per day, not per month, not per year. And at that rate, Mr. President, a small loan can double or even triple in a matter of days. In one documented case, a borrower applied for 22,000 pesos, received only 16,000 pesos, and was demanded to pay 40,000 pesos within just 2 weeks. Mahigit doble po agad ang ibabalik niya, Ginoong Pangulo. This is not just excessive, it is exploitative. Ang gipit ay lalo pang ginigipit. But what truly shocked this representation, Mr. President, was the nature of the collection practices themselves. At this point, I ask the indulgence of this august chamber, as some of the language I'm about to quote is disturbing and involves threats of harm and even death. Ito po ang ilan lamang sa mga ipinadala ng mga biktima sa ating opisina. Babaragin ko na lang buong pamilya mo. Ibabalandra ko sila isa-isa. Bibigyan ko sila ng kahihiyan sa utang mo. Hindi ko yan titigilan hanggang hindi ka nagbabayad. Lalo na sa trabaho mo, ipapahiya ko yung pinapasukan mo. Wala ka ng pamilya sa gagawin ko. Another example, Mr. President, magdanakaw ka na, sisikat ka pa at gagawin kong malaswang video mo. Ako ang magpapakalat at sisira ng buhay mo hanggang mamahinga ka. Another, Mr. President, papunta na yung taong inutusan ko. Sisiguraduhin ko sa iyo, babaha ang luha dyan sa bahay ninyo. May mga biktima po, Ginoong Pangulo, na pinadalhan ng mga bulaklak ng patay sa kanilang mismong tahanan. Ang iba naman tinatawagan ng halos 100 beses sa loob lamang ng isang araw hanggang sa wasakin ang kanilang kapayapaan ng isip at dignidad. Bilang isang ama, Ginoong Pangulo, nakakalungkot po dahil maging ang larawan ng kanilang mga anak, larawan ng mga bata ay ikinakalat para gamiting panakot sa kanilang mga magulang. Sa halagang 30,000 piso, ang isang biktima naman pong ito ay ginawan ng malalaswang peking larawan at walang habas na ipinapakalat online. Hindi pa sila nakontento, Ginoong Pangulo. May ilan po na gumawa pa ng mga peking dokumento na kunyari ay mula sa Philippine National Police. Idinikit ang larawan ng biktima at ikinalat sa iba't ibang Facebook groups upang palabasing siya ay isang kriminal. Walang tigil din po siya na pinapadalhan ng mga mensahe gaya po ng naka-flash sa screen. Hanggang walang pagpo-post ng payment dito ngayong araw, di naming papatulugin ang mga kamag-anak mo. Hindi ako titigil magpadala dyan sa address mo. Antayin mo, bulaklak ulit ng patay ang padadala ko para pagburulan ka na. Alam mo bang masisira buhay nito? Sisimulan ko na sa kanya. Makapal ka ha. Tingnan mo, mangyayari sa pamilya mo isa-isa. Mr. President, wala pong sibilisadong lipunan ang dapat tumanggap ng ganitong pananalita at pananakot. Lalo na kung dahil lamang sa maliit na pagkakautang. Hindi na ito koleksyon, Ginoong Pangulo. Ito po ay paninira ng buhay. These are not isolated incidents, Mr. President. These are templates of abuse, repeated across platforms, repeated across victims, repeated because there is profit in terror. What makes these practices especially dangerous is the weaponization of personal data. Many OLAs require borrowers to grant access to their contact list, photo galleries, call logs, GPS location, messages, and even e-wallet and bank account details. Each time the application is opened, access is regranted until the borrower's entire digital life is exposed and used against them. Ginoong Pangulo, privacy is not a privilege, it is a right. Yet for these borrowers, privacy is often the first thing taken away. My dear colleagues, fellow senators, let us not forget the human cost of these practices. During our committee hearing, the president of an OLA victims group testified that aside from widespread anxiety and depression, there have been lives lost. Victims who succumbed to hopelessness and mental anguish caused by relentless harassment. There is no longer just a consumer issue. This is a public safety issue. This is a mental health issue. This is human rights issue. Ginoong Pangulo, walang interes ang mas mahalaga pa kaysa buhay at dignidad ng tao. The proposed measure draws a bright and non-negotiable line. It clearly defines and prohibits harassment or abuse and unfair debt collection practices, including threats of violence or criminal harm, use of insults, obscene or profane language, public shaming or unauthorized disclosure of names and personal information, repeated, unreasonable, or untimely communications, contacting employers, co-workers, or unrelated third parties, misrepresentation, deception, or intimidation, and collection of any amount other than the principal obligation without express authorization in the agreement. Importantly, Mr. President, this bill also benefits legitimate lenders by setting clear standards. It protects ethical lending companies from being lumped together with abusive operators, promotes fair competition in the lending industry, strengthens consumer confidence, and ensures that debt collection remains a lawful, professional, and transparent process. Mr. President, this bill does not prohibit collection. Uulitin ko po, this bill does not prohibit collection. It prohibits abuse. It imposes clear accountability on lending companies and their agents, provides real and enforceable penalties, and empowers regulatory agencies to act decisively. Let me emphasize, this bill does not excuse the non-payment of legitimate debts. What it demands is simple. If you collect lawfully. If you collect humanly. If you collect, you respect both the law and the person. Some may ask, do we really need another law? Mr. President, the answer is yes, because abusive operators have learned how to exploit the gaps and weaknesses in our existing laws. Without this measure, we allow fear to become a business strategy. Without this measure, we allow harassment to become normalized. Without this measure, we tell victims that their suffering is simply the cost of being poor. So, Mr. President, we are guided today by the voices of the victims themselves. Kasama po natin ngayon sa ating likuran. With us are members of an OLA victim support group and their lawyer who has been assisting them freely and voluntarily in seeking justice. Their courage reminds us that behind every statistic is a human story of fear and loss, but also of resilience. We thank the victims and those who stand with them for trusting this institution to act. Ginoong Pangulo, dear colleagues, our legacy will be defined not by the interest we protect, but by the people we choose to defend, especially the most vulnerable. In sponsoring this bill, we stand for dignity, we stand for fairness, we stand for the rule of law. Umaasa po tayo ng suporta mula sa ating mga kasamahan sa mabilis na pagpasa ng palukalang batas na ito. Maraming salamat po at pagpalain tayong lahat ng ating Panginoong Diyos.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, we recognize as well our distinguished colleague, Chairman of the Committee on Finance, no other than Chairman Win Gatchalian.
Senator Sherwin Gatchalian is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Majority Leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise today to co-sponsor the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. Dahil sa hirap ng buhay, marami sa ating mga kababayan ang napipilitang mangutang. Madalas kapit sa patalim, humihiram sila ng pera hindi para bumili ng kung ano-anong karangyaan, kundi dahil kulang ang pagkukunan ng pambayad sa doktor o ospital pagkatapos tamaan ng stroke si tatay. Dahil minsan, kahit anong kayod nila sa araw-araw, kahit magkasakit na sila sa pagod, kapos pa rin ang pangtawid ng matrikula para sa anak na papasok pa lang sa senior high school o sa kolehiyo kasi mahal ang pag-aaral. At ang pinakamasakit sa lahat, pumapasok sila sa mga panganib na sitwasyon na hindi naman nila pipiliin kung may iba pang paraan. Mr. President, this strikes a chord at one of the very foundations of our Constitution and one of our deepest obligations to our people, the protection of human dignity. Article 2, Section 11 of our Constitution states that the state values the dignity of every human person and guarantees respect for human rights. This guarantee must also govern financial transactions and debt collection practices, because these are some of the deepest everyday struggles our countrymen face. Halos araw-araw, nakakatanggap kami ng mga email galing sa mga kababayan natin at kinikwento nila na hindi lang sila sinisingil ng mga kolektor. Minumura sila, binabastos ang kanilang mga pamilya at pinagbabantaan ang kanilang buhay. Yung iba, Mr. President, pinapadala ng bala para takutin silang magbayad. And all of these horrible practices persist despite the presence of legislation that explicitly prohibits this kind of harassment. This representation was the principal author of RA 11765, or the Financial Products and Services Consumer Protection Act. Section 8 of that law states that financial service providers are prohibited from employing abusive collection or debt recovery practices against the financial consumers. It further mandates that financial service providers are obligated to respect the privacy and protect the data of their clients. Despite these very clear mandates, the abuse remains. A more explicit measure is needed, which is what prompted this representation to author this bill. This bill protects borrowers by regulating creditors and debt collectors and defining legitimate collection activities. This measure prohibits financing companies, lending companies, and debt collectors from using the threat of violence or other physical means to harm the physical person, reputation, or property of the debtor or their family. This includes using insults and obscene or profane language to shame the debtor or their family. It explicitly prohibits false, deceptive, or misleading representation in connection with the collection of any debt. It also stipulates that all creditors using online lending platforms which are operating in the Philippines must integrate a loan cost calculator that allows prospective and existing debtors to compute for the total amounts they need to pay in real time. This is to promote greater transparency on the part of the lender and greater financial awareness and agency on the part of the borrower. Finally, this measure empowers the Security and Exchange Commission to impose fines, suspend the financing and lending activities, or even revoke the certificate of authority to operate as a financing or lending company. Mr. President, lenders have the right to collect debts, but they must do so in a proper and legal manner. Hindi natin dapat hayaang magpatuloy ang mapang-abusong sistema ng paniningil, lalo na sa ating mahihirap na kababayan. Before I end, I would like to thank the sponsor of this bill, Senator Joel Villanueva, for his commitment in ensuring the protection of our financial consumers and upholding the principles of fair treatment, transparency, and accountability in debt collection. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President,
Anyway, maganda yung tumitiri po. Maganda. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, I believe Senator Jingo Estrada would like to just insert to the record, or shall we leave it? Oh, may we recognize Senator Jingo Estrada, Mr. President?
Senator Jingo Estrada is recognized. Senator Tulfo, you will give in to, yes, okay. Senator Jingo Estrada is recognized.
Sorry, boss.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, this representation wishes to co-sponsor Senate Bill number 1744 under Committee Report number 26, or the proposed Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. Due process is paramount in the Bill of Rights under the 1987 Philippine Constitution, as contained in Article 3, Sections 1 and 14. Further, consumer rights are protected under several laws passed by Congress, as well as several issuances by government regulators. Financing and lending companies provide consumers an important tool in extending credit facilities. Naglipa na rin ngayon ang iba't ibang klase ng online lending apps sa ating bansa. Apart from banks and traditional non-bank financial institutions, these mobile apps or fintech platforms provide a lifeline for unbanked Filipinos with just the click of the mobile phone. But for several years, it is quite appalling that unfair collection practices are still being perpetrated by collection agents. In fact, social media is awash with horror stories of how creditors and collection agencies employ dirty tactics against consumers with delinquent accounts to compel them to pay, resorting to harassment, threats, and other notorious practices bordering on criminal acts. Nariyan ang text messages at tawag na minumura ang nanghiram ng pera. Nariyan din ang mga may magpupunta sa bahay at tatakutin ng nag-loan na kukunin ng mga gamit dito sa bahay kapalit ng inutang na pera. At meron din pagkakataon na sinasabi sa nag-loan na di umano'y ay may kasong inahain na sa korte at may court order na laban sa nag-loan. Meron din pinupuntahan ng collection agents ng barangay kung saan nakatira ang nag-loan at pinapahiya ito. At ang pinakamasaklap, ang pagtawag ng collection agent sa employer ng borrower para pahiyain ito. Pati na rin sa mga kakilala ng borrower na wala namang kinalaman sa transaksyon. These practices are highly deplorable and these must be stopped. And it is time for the Senate to step up and protect our consumers against these unfair practices. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Erwin Tulfo is recognized.
Mr. President, I express my strong support for the proposed Senate Bill 1744. And I would also like and take this opportunity to ask my colleagues in this chamber to support this bill seeking to regulate debt collection practices in order to protect debtors from abuse, harassment, and unfair treatment and misrepresentation. Debt collection should be conducted with integrity, transparency, and respect for human dignity. However, as we have heard the authors, many debtors are subjected to aggressive tactics, misleading information, threats, and repeated harassment that cause undue stress, fear, and financial instability. Such practices undermine basic consumer rights and disproportionately affect vulnerable individuals and families. This bill, Mr. President, is necessary and timely measure to establish clear standards of conduct for debt collectors, ensure accountability, and prevent exploitative practices by prohibiting harassment, false representation, and unfair collection methods. The proposed legislation promotes ethical business practices while balancing the legitimate interests of creditors with the rights of debtors. We believe that the passage of this bill will strengthen consumer protection, restore public trust in the financial system, and uphold principles of fairness and justice. I therefore urge lawmakers, my colleagues, to support and enact this measure in the interest of protecting the public and fostering a more humane and responsible debt collection system. Thank you, Mr. President.
Majority Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, I would like to also associate myself with this measure, if I can be made also a co-sponsor and co-author of the measure, Mr. President. Even
Senator
my...
Villanueva is Agreeing? Okay, we
Thank
place
you,
that
Mr.
on the-
President. Even my household help, just recently, last week, Mr. President, yung mga kasambahay ko, dalawa sa kanila ay umiiyak sa akin dahil nga hindi makabayad ng utang. At tinanong ko bakit sila ng utang, kailangan daw nila para sa kanilang paganda ng kanilang bahay, tahanan. Tapos ang nangyari ay nag-miss out lang sila sa isang payment, ay yung penalties in arrears ay napakalaki. I found out that the percentage also of the interest rate was so high. I think it was like 3% a week. So if that's 3% a week, that's 12% a month. Ang laki po ng interest charges na yan at lalong nabaon po sila sa utang. Kaya tama po ang ginagawa ng ating Committee Chairman Joel Villanueva. We fully support him. We can, if the soonest possible time we can bring this out, I think more people will be saved from these financial constraints and from this financial abuse. Marami nga nang napakamatay na, Mr. President, dahil sa mga utang na ito. At may mga style pa sila na, I remember we had a hearing together with Senator Erwin Tulfo during his committee hearing on games and amusements na nagiging mas talo pa nila yung mafia. Ito po yung nagiging yung sindikatong sistemang pagkuha ng pagbayad sa utang. At kung hindi po kayo nagbayad, talaga may threats and grave threats and embarrassment. Kaya nga nagpapakamatay nga yung mga nangutang dahil nahihiya po sila. Binablast text pa yung mga utang at kung ano-ano mga mensahe na pinapadala sa mga kamag-anak. So with that, Mr. President, to allow our colleagues to study the measure further, move to yes. Senator Padilla, please, sir. And Senator Bongo, Mr. President, direct. They can, yes.
Senator Padilla and Senator Bongo would like to
Maraming salamat
would like
po.
to co-sponsor the measure?
Opo.
All right, go ahead.
Salamat po, Ginoong Pangulo at sa ating pinunong mayorya. Mga kagalang-galang kong mga kasamahan sa Senado, ako po ay tumatayo bilang co-sponsor ng panukalang isinusulong po ni Senador Joel Villanueva, ang Senate Bill number 1744 o ang Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. Isang batas na malinaw ang mensahe. Ang pangungulekta ng utang ay hindi dapat maging lisensya sa pang-aabuso. Hindi po ito batas para pagtakpan ang ayaw magbayad. Ang utang po ay obligasyon. Tama po yun. Ngunit, ang paraan ng paniningil ay may hangganan dahil mahalaga ang dignidad ng tao. Sa tunay na buhay, maraming Pilipino ang umuutang hindi para magpakasasa sa luho, kundi para mabuhay, para pambili ng gamot, pangmatrikula, renta, pagkain. Ngunit, ang sinukli sa ilan ay takot at kahihiyan. Walang tigil na tawag, pagmumura, pagbabanta, at ang pinakamalala, paglalantad ng kanilang personal na impormasyon sa iba para lamang mapilitan silang magbayad. May mga kaso po na text blast sa contact list, panghihimasok sa pamilya at kaibigan, at pananakot na parang kriminal ang isang taong may utang. Ginoong Pangulo, hindi po koleksyon ang tawag dyan. Pang-aalipusta po yan. Hindi po maaring maghugas kamay ang mga nagpapautang. At sasabihin nilang wala silang pananagutan sa ginagawang mga human rights violation ng mga kolektor. Sapagkat sa ilalim ng batas, sila po ay solidaryong mananagot. Bilang ang bansa po natin ay isang Christian at Muslim country, naninindigan po tayo sa katarungan, dignidad at pananagutan. Sa batas at sa konsensya, hindi pwedeng ang paniningil ay nagiging panghihiya at pananakot. Kaya ako po ay buong lakas at buong puso na nagiging co-sponsor ng Fair Debt Collection Practices Act at hinihiling ko po ang suporta ng lahat ng ating mga kasamahan upang maipaisa ito para sa makatao, makatarungan at may dignidad na sistema ng paniningil sa ating bansa. Maraming salamat po, Ginoong Pangulo.
Senator Christopher Bongo is recognized.
Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, I stand to co-sponsor Senate Bill number 1744 under Committee Report number 26, otherwise known as the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. This bill is a timely and necessary response to the growing number of complaints from ordinary Filipinos who, while acknowledging their financial obligations, have been subjected to abusive, deceptive, and unfair debt collection practices. Marami po sa ating mga kababayan ang nahaharap sa mga ganitong uri po ng paniningil kung saan nagagamit ang kanilang kahinaan at sa halip na tulungan ay lalo pang napapabigat ang kanilang sitwasyon sa buhay. Hindi naman po mangungutang yan kung hindi po naghihirap. At marami talagang reklamo. Ako mismo, yung aking opisina na binabastos, tinatakot. Hindi lang dito sa Maynila, kundi sa Mindanao at sa Visayas. Ganito po ang kanilang nararanasan. Mr. President, access to credit is an essential part of economic activity. However, such access must be balanced with stronger consumer protection mechanisms. The absence of clear standards has allowed some debt collectors to operate without accountability, preying on vulnerable individuals who lack the means and knowledge to assert their rights. Ang kakulangan po ng malinaw na regulasyon ay nagiging daan para sa ilang nagpapautang at debt collector na manakot o manlamang sa mga taong hindi alam ang kanilang karapatan. Importante, alam po ng ating mga kababayan ang kanilang karapatan. Idagdag pa natin dito ang mga kwento at di umano'y kawalan ng respeto sa paniningil, kung saan para bang napakababa ng tingin kung kausapin ng mga collection agent ang mga kliyente nila. Mahalaga na mapagpatibay at mapangalagaan natin ang dignidad ng mga Pilipinong nangangailangan. Hirap na nga ang marami dahil baon na sa utang, wag na sanang ipagdiinan pa sa kanila ito. Through this measure, we are not preventing legitimate debt collection. Pinapangalagaan natin ang proseso sa pagbayad ng obligasyon ay makatao, maayos at transparent. It is about creating a system where accountability exists, where debtors can assert their rights without fear, and where lenders and collection agencies maintain the credibility and integrity of our financial system. Mr. President, this proposed bill sends a strong message that the state will not tolerate abuse in any form, especially against those already struggling to make ends meet. By passing this measure, we protect not only the debtors, but also the integrity of our credit and lending institutions. We also commend the sponsor, Senator Joel Villanueva, for prioritizing this measure. We also thank Senator Gatchalian and Senator Padilla for authoring this bill. We hope we could be included as co-author of this measure. Maraming salamat po, Mr. President.
John the Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, Senator Legardo would also like to be made co-sponsor and request her speech to be inserted for the record.
So inserted.
Mr. President, to allow our colleagues to study the measure further, I move that we suspend consideration of the same.
Hearing no objection, the consideration of the measure is suspended.
Thank you. Mr. President, I move that we move to transfer to the calendar of ordinary business to special order, Senate Bill number 1819 under Committee Report number 27.
Any objection? Hearing none, consideration is transferred.
Mr. President, I would like to ask the Secretary to read the title of the measure.
Secretary will read the title of the measure.
An act strengthening the policies of online sexual abuse or exploitation of children and child sexual abuse or exploitation materials, providing penalties for its violations, appropriating funds for revising for the purpose Republic Act number 11930 entitled An Act Punishing Online Sexual Abuse or Exploitation of Children, penalizing the production, distribution, possession, and access of child sexual abuse or exploitation materials.
Majority Leader.
President, we recognize, or we move to consider Senate Bill number 1819. So moved, Mr. President.
Consideration of the measure, hearing no objection, is in order. You may proceed.
May we recognize our distinguished sponsor, the chairperson of the committee in charge, no other than Senator Risa Ontiveros, Mr. President.
Senator Risa Ontiveros is recognized.
Salamat po, Mr. President. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, mga kapwa ko magulang, mga kaibigan. I rise today to sponsor Senate Bill number 1819, Committee Report number 27, a measure that responds to one of the most brutal crimes of our time, one that hides behind screens but destroys real Filipino children. Sa bawat araw na dumadaan, may batang Pilipino na ginagawang produkto, binibili, binebenta, at paulit-ulit na inaabuso. Hindi sa madilim na eskinita, kundi sa loob ng mga online platforms na abot ang buong mundo. Online sexual abuse and exploitation of children is no longer a fringe crime. It is a global industry. And tragically, the Philippines remains one of its major source countries. Noong 2020, naipasa natin ang RA number 11930 o ang Anti-Online Sexual Abuse and Exploitation Act. Sa ilalim ng then and current Senate President Tito Soto, we passed what was at that time the strongest piece of legislation possible against these online pedophiles. Ngunit nag-iba na ang panahon. Dumating ang AI at deepfake. Naging madali ang pagpapadala ng pera in real time through various e-wallets. Talamak ang sexual extortion. This bill confronts that reality head-on. First, we expand our definitions to match today's technology. Child sexual abuse or exploitation materials will now include computer-generated, digitally altered, or synthesized content. Kahit wala ng aktwal na batang ginamit sa paglikha ng imahe, kung ang intensyon ay sexual at mapang-abuso, krimen pa rin iyon. This closes the dangerous gap created by AI-generated abuse. Second, we finally criminalize sexual extortion clearly and explicitly. Hindi na lamang ito nakapaloob sa other acts of abuse. It is a punishable offense. Ang pananakot gamit ang pribadong larawan o video ng bata, ang paulit-ulit na pangingikil kapalit ng katahimikan ay malinaw na krimen. I actually have evidence, Mr. President, that these acts of sexual extortion are perpetrated by syndicates, possibly in the same opaque former POGO compounds that perpetrated all kinds of financial scams. Third, we raise the responsibility of the private sector because the digital ecosystem is where these crimes thrive. Internet intermediaries are no longer passive conduits. They are now required to prevent, detect, and disrupt OSAEC and CSAM. Foreign platforms that profit from Filipino users must designate Philippine legal representatives. Payment service providers are mandated to strengthen traceability and data sharing so money trails no longer vanish into thin air. Mr. President, money is the oxygen of this crime. Kung mapuputol natin ang daloy ng bayad, mapuputol natin ang negosyo. Fourth, we strengthen cooperation both domestically and internationally. Crimes committed in seconds cross borders in milliseconds. This bill allows more robust information exchange with foreign law enforcement and less restricted sharing among our own agencies. Hindi na pwedeng silo-silo. The child cannot wait for bureaucratic convenience. Finally, we transform the Offenders Registry into the Philippine Child Sex Offenders Registry. Hindi lamang ito para sa investigasyon at prosekusyon. Gagamitin ito para sa prevention, para sa clearance at certification ng mga nagtatrabaho sa child-serving institutions, para sa proteksyon bago pa mangyari ang krimen. Colleagues, this bill is not anti-technology. It is pro-child. Hindi rin ito laban sa innovation. It is a demand for responsibility. At higit sa lahat, this bill recognizes a simple truth. Kapag ang batas ay nahuhuli sa teknolohiya, ang talo ay ang bata. Mr. President, every delay has a cost measured in trauma, in silence, in stolen childhoods. This measure gives our law enforcers sharper tools, our regulators clearer authority, and our children the protection they deserve in a digital age. Nagpapasalamat po ako na sa araw din na ito nakasama ang panukalang batas na ito sa LEDAC priority measures, gaya ng sinabi ninyo, Mr. President. This Congress will not shirk from the responsibility of protecting Filipino children. Para sa mga batang walang boses, tayo ang dapat magsalita. Para sa mga batang hindi kayang ipagtanggol ang sarili, tayo ang dapat kumilos. Marami pong salamat.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, to co-sponsor the measure, we recognize Senator Pia Cayetano.
Senator Pia Cayetano is recognized.
Thank you. Mr. President, I rise to co-sponsor Senate Bill number 1819 under the Committee Report number 27, Expanded Anti-Online Sexual Abuse or Exploitation of Children and Anti-Child Sexual Abuse or Exploitation Materials Act. This measure builds on our earlier efforts to protect children from abuse, but it does something more. It acknowledges the way children are harmed in today's changing times. Many children nowadays grow up with a phone in their hand before they can even write their name. While this opens doors for learning and connection, it also opens doors for predators. Artificial intelligence is now widely used to generate images and deep fakes. Online games allow strangers to communicate with children in real time, and new platforms emerge faster than families and institutions can respond. Way back, Mr. President, during the 14th Congress, I filed Senate Bill number 3267, which became Republic Act number 9995, the Anti-Photo and Video Voyeurism Act of 2009, to respond to the misuse of images and recordings and to protect the privacy and dignity of victims. This expanded anti-OSAEC and CSAM Act is a continuation of that advocacy in a far more complex digital landscape where images can now be fabricated, altered, and spread in seconds, and where children are left vulnerable. This measure heightens the duties of the private sector. Internet intermediaries are given expanded duties and clear obligations to prevent, detect, and disrupt OSAEC and CSAM. Foreign internet intermediaries and technology platforms are now required to designate Philippine legal representatives so that our authorities have someone on the ground to engage and hold accountable. They are also required to preserve key data and IP logs, act within clear timeframes to block and take down abusive content, and deploy appropriate technical safeguards, including AI-based tools and hash matching systems to identify and stop CSAM even when it is computer-generated or shared through private messaging or new applications. While technology is evolving, our duty remains the same, to be one step ahead in protecting our children. I also stand here, Mr. President, as chairperson of the Committee on Sustainable Development Goals, Innovation and Futures Thinking. When we talk about the SDGs, we are talking about the fundamental rights of every child to grow up in a peaceful environment. This bill is our engine for that change. It dismantles the machinery of exploitation to meet the gold standard of SDG 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions which seek to end violence against children and strengthen access to justice. This measure advances SDG 5 by addressing sexual extortion and technology-facilitated violence by acknowledging the harsh reality that our daughters are disproportionately targeted. We are fighting for their health, SDG 3, good health and well-being, their education, and their right to a life free from modern slavery. But we cannot do this in a vacuum. True to SDG 17, partnerships for the goal, this bill builds a bridge between government, tech giants, and civil society. With this measure, we are affirming the dignity and safety of every Filipino child, on-screen and off-screen. We are telling the world that our children's safety is non-negotiable. Thank you, Mr. President.
Majority Leader.
May we
Senator
recognize
Mark
Senator
Villar.
Mark Williams.
Senator Mark Villar is recognized.
Thank you. Mr. President, I rise to co-sponsor Senate Bill number 1819 under Committee Report number 27, or the expanded Anti-Online Sexual Abuse or Exploitation of Children and Anti-Child Sexual Abuse or Exploitation Materials Act. Mr. President, last year, 2.7 million children in the Philippines were victims of online sexual abuse and exploitation, as reported by the Commission on Human Rights. Children reported that they experienced grooming and received offers of gifts or money in exchange for sexual acts. However, the stigma surrounding sexual abuse most likely diminishes the actual number of recorded victims. Maraming batang biktima ng sexual abuse ang nahihiyang i-report ang kanilang karanasan dahil sa takot na mapahiya at maging usap-usapan. Mr. President, I am grateful to our good sponsor, Senator Risa Ontiveros, for championing the bill as fighting against OSAIC and CISAM has long been an advocacy also of my family. The amendment and expansion of Republic Act number 11930 to address the gaps in policy on OSAIC and CISAM in line with the changing online landscape is truly a welcome and timely development. Through this expanded bill, the law will be responsive to the more sophisticated digital space and to address the worsening cases of online sexual abuse and exploitation. This bill will clarify obligations, establish accountability mechanisms, and ensure lawful, efficient information sharing across government and private sectors. Mr. President, the country is an emerging hub for OSAIC and CISAM due to heightening economic vulnerabilities, high English proficiency, affordable internet access, and availability of digital payment systems. It is high time that we strengthen our laws and regulations that counter this alarming increase in abuse and exploitation of our children. Mr. President, with the indulgence of the good sponsor, I would also like to be made a co-author of this bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President,
Majority Leader.
also for the record, Senators Jingoy Estrada and Senator Lauren Legarda would like to insert their co-sponsorship speech to the record for Senate Bill number 1819. So moved.
Thank you. So inserted into the records.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, to allow our colleagues to study the measure for... Oh, I was told, Mr. President. My apologies, Mr. President. Senator Legarda would like to read her sponsorship speech, co-sponsorship speech.
Senator Lauren Legarda is recognized.
Dito nakalista. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. President. Actually, just a few minutes ago, Senator Ontiveros, Senator Cayetano Pia, and this representation were asking about the two laws which are equally important, the amendment to this online sexual exploitation and the two trafficking laws which we also offered here. And actually, we were discussing how would the selling of images of a child or a person in a manner that would affect or exploit the person, would that be considered just online sexual exploitation or trafficking the image of a child? Because trafficking, as I understand it, would need to be the physical human trafficking, but because of AI, would this also be considered trafficking? At ano po ang mas mahigpit, mas mahirap, mas mabigat na parusa? Is it online sexual exploitation and the law as we are amending it, or the second expanded Anti-Trafficking in Persons Act? But this will come about later when we discuss this on the amendments and the interpellations. So long before I entered public service way back in 1998, Mr. President, I had a program called Inside Story, where we did a documentary on a book written by a Filipina who discussed human trafficking. I was in my 20s, perhaps early 30s. The title of the book then was They Are So Sweet, Sir. And it documented stories of trafficked Filipinas in the Philippines and abroad. I wish I could find that book of the 1970s and 80s so that it could also help us in trying to see how way back then, when there was no technology that we have now, trafficking was already, human trafficking was already a global and worldwide scourge, and the biggest, perhaps, threat to humankind. So we see how syndicates prey on the vulnerability, on poverty, how victims are silenced by fear, shame, and coercion. I listened to stories 30, 40 years ago of women and children lured by promises of a better life, only to be trapped by syndicates that thrive on secrecy, intimidation, and impunity. Through their stories, I learned that perpetrators do not stand still. They move with technology, hide behind new fronts, exploit every gap in our laws. That's why we have the two trafficking laws. One was 2009, the other was 2012, and perhaps it needs amendment again. Every weakness in coordination and every moment of institutional delay. When criminals become more creative, and yes, they are, the state must be more deliberate, stronger in policy, smarter in enforcement, and more united in action across agencies, communities, and borders. This is why we champion Republic Act 10364, the expanded Anti-Trafficking in Persons Act, in 2012, but it's been 14 years, so perhaps we should look into it again, to strengthen our laws, to tighten accountability, to build a more coordinated national response against an evolving crime. Today, the same logic applies with even greater urgency to online child sexual abuse and exploitation. Republic Act 11930, Anti-Online Sexual Abuse or Exploitation of Children, or SAIC, the Anti-Child Sexual Abuse or Exploitation Materials, CESAM Act. These were landmark legislation, but the landscape has shifted quickly. Abusers now operate through encrypted platforms, digital payment channels, cross-border hosting services that did not exist then or did not dominate just only a few years ago. The harm is no longer confined to a specific place. It is recorded, replicated, traded, leaving a digital footprint that follows a child for life. The proposed measure to amend RA 11930 strengthens the existing legislation by ensuring that the government can act faster and more decisively against online child abuse. It improves coordination among agencies and requires greater responsibility from platforms that operate in or reach the Philippines, and equips authorities to secure and use digital evidence to identify victims, to build cases, and to work with foreign partners when crimes reach beyond our borders. It also backs enforcement with clearer accountability measures, dedicated support for child safeguarding, so protection does not depend on patchwork efforts, but on a stronger, more reliable system. the expanded Anti-Online OSAIC and SESAIM Act of 2025 is a necessary step in keeping our laws responsive to evolving technology and cross-border criminality. And in supporting this measure, we affirm that the Philippines will not allow digital spaces and financial channels or jurisdictional distance to become safe havens for those who profit from the abuse of children. I'm therefore grateful to Senator Risa Ontiveros, Senator Pia Cayetano, who have been more than helpful and supportive in trying to bring this to our national and international attention, especially now, Mr. President, when it was discovered that the convicted late American pedophile, Jeffrey Epstein, had operated in the Philippines quite recently, 2010. We were already in the Senate. And as I speak now, you see it on social media, whether these are the wealthiest billionaires in the dollar sense, whether they belong to royalty in different parts of Europe and the world, whether they are the most elected and respected highest officials of countries we have alliances with. They purportedly, allegedly, are named in millions of pages of the Epstein files, only to discover that he had a network in the Philippines in 2010. I, together with my colleagues, will file a resolution to ask the Department of Justice and the NBI, perhaps the Committee on Women, to look into this, and I will file that resolution because that's very recent, 15 years ago. And we already had the anti-trafficking laws then. So we must see, because they even worked with a public relations company to cleanse their image. Who is that? I'm sure meron yan NBI. At anong mga network ang ginagamit dito? Hindi naman yan sex network lahat. Iba ang front negosyo. Ibang mga sektor. This is so recent, Mr. President. So, nakayapak dito, hindi ko alam kung siya mismong personal o magalamay niya na ang convicted, na namatay o pinatay, na pedophile, na financial wizard daw noon ay may network sa Pilipinas. So, I'm glad that this is so timely, Senator Ontiveros, that you had filed the amendments to the OSAIC and the OSASAIM, and I would like to look on the trafficking laws as well, before 2010, another one 2012, and I will file the resolution to look onto the Epstein footprint in the Philippines and organizations and syndicates that worked with him, as well as the PR companies that helped cleanse his physical and digital image in the Philippines, per the reports I've read. Having said that, I thank Your Honor for listening. Thank you.
Majority Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. To allow our colleagues to study the measure further, move to suspend consideration.
Any objection? Hearing none, consideration suspended.
And Senator Padilla would like to put the sponsorship speech to just insert it to the records.
Inserted into the records.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we transfer from the calendar from ordinary business to special order Senate Bill number 1823 under Committee Report number 29. Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, so transferred.
President, may we ask the Secretary to read the title of
Secretary will read the title of the measure.
An act resetting the first regular elections in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, amending for the purpose Section 13, Answer 16 of Republic Act Number 11054 as amended, otherwise known as Organic Law for the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao.
Mr. President, I move to consider Senate Bill number 1823 under Committee Report number 29. Mr. President, I so move.
Any objection? Hearing none, consideration of 1823 is in order. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I be recognized to sponsor the measure?
The Majority Leader is recognized to sponsor the measure.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just like the bill of Senator Risa Ontiveros on the OSAIC, or the Online Sexual Abuse and Exploitation of Children, which was made into priority measure this morning. This bill of ours as well, Mr. President, was included in the LEDAC priority measure by the President. Mr. President, I stand here today as a lawmaker from Mindanao, determined to fulfill the promise of self-determination upon which the Bangsamoro Organic Law was built. It has been 7 years since the passage of the Bangsamoro Organic Law, but our people have yet to exercise the right to vote for members of the Bangsamoro Parliament. With this measure, Senate Bill number 1587 will finally set the date of the election on the second Monday of September 2026, and we will ensure that this pushes through without further delay. It is already the fourth postponement, Mr. President, and it has to be the final one. We cannot delay our people's right to vote any longer. To do so would be to undo our hard-earned gains of peace and progress in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. Mr. President, to help our colleagues and the public understand the long delay in the first regular elections of the BARM, please allow me to present a brief timeline. Our landmark Bangsamoro Organic Law was passed in 2018 and ratified in 2019. And in the original law, if you can see the picture, Mr. President, can we go back to that slide? Itim pa mga book natin dyan, Mr. President. Batang-bata pa natin dun. Our landmark Bangsamoro Organic Law, Mr. President, passed in 2018, ratified in 2019, and in the original law, we set the first regular election to synchronize with the 2022 national and local elections. Unfortunately, between the 2019 ratification and the 2022 elections, we were hit by the COVID-19 pandemic, and the BARM was in a crucial period of transition at the time, and the pandemic turned this period of growth into a period of survival. It was clear that the BARM could not yet afford to go forward with the scheduled election in 2022, as they had not truly been given the time for a proper transition. It was reasonable, or rather, it was unreasonable to expect the BARM to already stand on its own, even when the national government themselves were struggling to bounce back from the impact of the pandemic. Thus, the first postponement was enacted, and the election was rescheduled from May 2022 to May 2025 to coincide once again with the national elections. In 2023, the Bangsamoro Electoral Code was finally enacted with enough time to spare before the 2025 elections. However, in September 9 of 2024, the Supreme Court came out with its decision declaring that while the Bangsamoro Organic Law is constitutional, the province of Sulu cannot be recognized as part of the BARM as they had not voted to ratify the Bangsamoro Organic Law. This decision, my dear colleagues, put a halt to the preparations of the BARM elections for that 2025, as it would affect the distribution of seats in the Bangsamoro Parliament. The 7 parliamentary districts located or allocated to Sulu would have to be distributed among the rest of the provinces. Thus, a second postponement was in order, and the election was delayed to October 13, 2025 under Republic Act 12123. On September 30, 2025, however, the Supreme Court once again put out another decision regarding the Bangsamoro region, declaring that the Bangsamoro Autonomy Act numbers 58 and 77 were declared unconstitutional. These were districting acts in the region, and the Bangsamoro Autonomous or BAA number 77 in particular was created to reallocate the parliamentary districts originally under the province of Sulu. The Supreme Court found that some of the new districts were not contiguous, compact, and adjacent, as can be seen by the slides, Mr. President. Instead, they were gerrymandered. As we can see in the maps, in contiguous municipalities were cobbled together into one district, likely to meet the population requirement of 100,000 residents for a legislative district. And there were some districts, Mr. President, wherein, if you see it, you see the red markers, hindi sila contiguous. Malalayo yung mga towns. Pero isang district po yun. Medyo malabo nga po. And tama po yung Supreme Court. Municipalities with no common borders and in some cases, no strong historical ties and cultural ties were forced together and toward political ends. The Supreme Court had to put its foot down. This brings us to the third postponement. From October 13, 2025, the election was delayed by the Supreme Court itself to a date not later than March 31, 2026. Itong Marso na po. The court then set a deadline of October 30 for a revised redistricting act that would address the legal infirmities of the prior acts. This deadline would have given the BARM government and the Commission on Elections enough time to prepare for the March polls. Sadly, despite their best efforts and despite working overtime during the holidays, the BTA Parliament was unable to meet the October 30 deadline, Mr. President. The new Redistricting Act, or the Bangsamoro Autonomy Act, number 86, was passed just this year on January 12, a bit later than expected. But I have faith that BAA number 86 is now fully compliant with the Bangsamoro Organic Law and will hold up a constitutional challenge. Still, the missed deadlines means that we will unfortunately have to enact a fourth postponement. From March 31, we are now proposing, after our hearings, and I'd like to thank Senator Lauren Legarda and Senator J.V. Ejercito for being there and asking the right questions and, of course, eliciting the proper responses from our dear resource persons, that we have now moved the proposed election, finally, I hope, Mr. President, to be held second Monday of September or September 14, 2026. This might seem a bit far away, especially after years and years of postponements, but from our hearings with the Commission on Elections and our stakeholders in the BARM, September has emerged as the best, earliest, and most practicable date for the elections. As a matter of fact, that is also the proposal of the House of Representatives, Mr. President. Assuming that we pass this measure sometime in March before we take the break, Mr. President, and it comes to effect in April, we still have to account for 120 days to legally redraw the precinct maps under Section 5 of the Voters Registration Act. A few months from April 5 to September will also allow the COMELEC enough time to open a general registration for voters and party lists and sectoral representatives alike, which they have to accomplish in the wake of the recent amendments of the Bangsamoro Electoral Code. And I hope that the good COMELEC Chairman George Garcia, who I'm sure is listening intently through his wife, Mavic Garcia, he committed, Mr. President, that those who registered previously will be given a fast lane, Mr. President, kasi umalma po yung mga halos 80 or 70 party list groups that already registered na under the new electoral code, they will have to now re-register again. At alam mo, that's another burden on them. Many of them are marginalized, so napakahirap po maghanap muli ng abogado, maghanap muli ng mga pwedeng mag-compile itong mga dokumento na ito. So sana po matupad yung pangako ni Chairman George Garcia na gagawin niya pong fast lane at wala na po masadong gastos itong ating mga kababayan. Gusto ko man pong magkaroon ng halalan sa lalong madaling panahon. Malaga po ang maayos nating mapaghandaan ito para siguradong matuloy na ito sa September, Mr. President, at hindi na tayo mapipilitan mag-postpone muli. That is why, apart from amending the date of the first regular Bangsamoro parliamentary elections, we are also amending the Bangsamoro Organic Law to mandate that the parliamentary elections will be held every 3 years thereafter, from September. This is in keeping with the provision of the Bangsamoro Organic Law that sets a term of 3 years for elective members of Parliament. Dapat kasi 3 years po yan. Hindi na po tayo magkakagulo sa usapin ng termino ng mga members of Parliament. Kasi I'm sure marami pong members of Parliament ay mapapanood itong video na ito and itong feedback online. And to allay fears for those who will run in September of 2026, we are not going to shorten their terms, Mr. President, for the record. Hindi na po natin sila isasabay sa national elections para kompleto pong makapagsilbi ng 3-year term ang mga mananalong members of Parliament ngayong taon. As a matter of fact, in the LEDAC today, the President also gave us that guidance that he wants to see he wants to make sure that the elections for our parliamentarians in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region be made on a different date para mabantayan ang seguridad, ang of course yung automation, and of course the safety and of course the credibility of the elections. So, yan po ang assurance natin sa ating mga members of Parliament that will run this 2026, that they will have and serve a full 3-year term. And this law, being a special law, Mr. President, will amend the general law which pushed for the synchronization of elections. Like I said before, Mr. President, once again, this is our 4th postponement, and this needs to be the last postponement. Ilang beses ko nang sinabi yan, nahiya na po ako. Actually, para akong sinungaling dahil sinabi na po natin last. Hindi naman po natin nakita na magkaroon ng COVID-19. Hindi naman po natin makita po na nagkaroon po ng constitutional infirmity or rather decision of the Supreme Court na tanggalin yung sulu, meaning kailan i-reapportion pa yung 7 seats. So talagang yan ay mga stumbling blocks, ika nga, or mga harang or potholes in the road to peace. But sana po, as I said, sana po ito na pinakahuling postponement. That is why we have taken every care in choosing this September date. Upon consultation with the COMELEC, the officials of the Bangsamoro Transition Authority, local government officials, legal luminaries, and peace advocates and watch groups. But beyond our formal consultations, I'm also keeping tabs on all the news coming out of the BARM. After the ratification of the Bangsamoro Organic Law in 2019, I was so relieved to see a drastic drop in incidences of violence in the region. It seemed that we had won peace through the BOL. News of terrorism, kidnappings, killings turned into news of investments, poverty reduction, and voluntary decommissioning. And I'm sure the finance chair would take note that the incidences of poverty have drastically gone down in the BARM areas. Talagang, we were so happy to receive the news from the PSA on this, Mr. President. What a big turnaround. When you have peace in the region, development most often will come. Other countries, from our neighbors in Southeast Asia to our partners in Europe, have even studied the BOL and the BARM as a success story in achieving autonomous peace and progress. As a matter of fact, the President today, Mr. President, highlighted the fact that when he was in the ASEAN meet in in Malaysia, yung kausap po niya, UN Secretary General Gutierrez, told him, out of 40 or so peace processes around the world, it is only the Philippines peace process with our Muslim brothers that has been successful. Sabi po niyan, out of 4 peace processes, only the one in the Philippines has been made a model and is successful. He said it today at the LEDAC, Mr. President. Kaya ako'y natutuwa at nagagalak bilang sponsor nito at tayo po lahat na nandito po na yun. All of us, except maybe for Senator Raffy because he's a new member of Senate. But all those who are on the floor, Senator Risa, the presiding officer, Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, Senator Laura Legarda, Senator J.V. Ejercito, And of course, to a certain extent, Senator Robin Hood Padilla, who was a civilian but at that time was lobbying for this measure, Mr. President. We were all one in proposing the political solution to the strife in Mindanao, Mr. President. In recent months, however, maybe because of the delay, frustration by certain groups in the BARM, we have seen a slow rise in violent incidences once again. Who can ever forget this RPG-wielding assassin in Sharif Agwak that has become a meme all over the world, Mr. President? We are back in making headlines for the wrong reasons. And my fear is that the escalating violence in the region is at least partly tied to the repeated postponement of the elections. By delaying and delaying and delaying the elections, Mr. President, we are eroding our people's trust in both the Bangsamoro government and the national government. And if they are disappointed and disenfranchised by the government, where else would they turn? What choice do we leave them with, Mr. President? Huwag natin hintayin na ang ipalit sa balota ay bala. Kaya ako po ay naiinip na sa napakaraming taong tumatawag sa akin since last night before I sponsored this measure na kung pwede, Senator Zubiri, i-postpone na natin ito hanggang 2028 para synchronized sa national elections. Sus Mariosep, Mr. President, hindi na po pwede yun. Magkakagera na doon po sa atin. Katawa-tawa na po tayo dahil ang sasabihin nila, hindi na po ito autonomous parliament, kundi appointed forever parliament. And that is what is going to turn the tide once again from peace to strife and fighting in our area. Mr. President, I would like to put this also for the record. The President also mentioned today that he even wanted it earlier rather than later. Pero when we explained to him nga the 120 days, including the publishing of the law, etc., he agreed to the September date. So for all those who still want to pursue the idea that we will postpone all the way till 2028, please take that out of your mindset. Hindi po mangyayari yun habang nandito po kami sa Senado at mga kasamaan po namin sa Kongreso. Tatapusin po natin ito at gagawin po nating September na ang halalan. The Bangsamoro people deserve to chart their own path and to choose their own leaders in doing so, Mr. President. That was the central promise of the Bangsamoro Organic Law, and that is one that we have to uphold now. So to our colleagues, I hope that you can all join me in continuing our work for peace in the Bangsamoro region. Before I end, I would like to specially thank the chairperson of the Committee on Local Government, Senator Jinggoy Estrada, for allowing us to head the subcommittee for this measure, which he knows is very, very close to my heart, being a proud son of Mindanao. But truthfully, this is no simple regional matter, Mr. President. The ability of the BARM to succeed is as a genuine autonomous region, is a victory for peace and progress, not just for the region, not just for Mindanao, but for the entire Republic of the Philippines, Mr. President. So let us not delay the vote any longer. Let us not delay peace. Maraming salamat po, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Zubiri. And I agree with you that we are already feeling